A very important point to keep in mind on the new FJR is brake lever and brake pedal adjustment and pivot maintenance. If the lever or pedal do not fully return to the release position or are misadjusted, the contacts for the brake light circuit may not close, which would allow the brake lights to stay on. Use Yamaha race grease on the brake pedal pivot and brake caliper grease for the brake lever and clutch lever pivot, and follow the maintenance schedule in the owner's or service manual. The brake lights are connected to the normally closed side of the brake light relay, and basically the brake light switches and the brake switch relay are designed to keep the brake lights off when the brakes are not applied. This means a complaint of the brake lights on and will not go off can not only be caused by brake lever or brake pedal adjustment, but can also be caused by an electrical issue on the new FJR. A little different than what we're normally used to. So let's talk first about a brake lights are on and will not go off complaint. First, again, it's very important to check for proper adjustment and movement of the brake switches, the brake lever, and brake pedal, as you normally would on any unit. Now, we do have a new fault code and a new diagnostic code for the brake system of the new FJR, but it's important to realize these only check the function of some of the components in the new brake light system. Fault code 90 and diagnostic code 83 checks the brake light fuse, the brake switches, and the brake switch relay. It does not check the operation of the brake light relay, or in some way check if the brake light bulbs are getting voltage or are actually illuminating. Fault code 90 is for an open or short circuit in the front or rear brake light switches. The ECU checks for battery voltage on the light green and black wire from the brake switch relay when the brakes are not applied. If there's no voltage on the light green and black wire to the ECU when the main switch is turned on, the ECU will display fault code 90. This light green and black wire normally sends voltage from the brake switch relay to the primary side of the brake light relay and to pin 31 at the 34-pin ECU multi-connector when the brakes are not applied. When the brakes are applied, this voltage should drop to 0. To verify if the brakes are applied or not, the ECU also checks the voltage on the light green and blue wire to pin 22 of the 34-pin connector to the ECU. This is the cruise control system speed canceling circuit through the clutch, front brake, rear brake, and grip canceling switches. This is a completely independent circuit through the front and rear brake switches. Basically, the voltage on both these wires should match. If there's voltage on the light green and blue wire, there must also be voltage on the light green and black wire. If not, the ECU will display fault code 90. Diagnostic code 83 is also new. It should display off when the brake lever or brake pedal are not activated, and change to on when either brake is applied. The signal for Diag code 83 comes from the same parallel wire, the light green and black wire from the brake light relay connector to pin 31 at the 34-pin ECU multi-connector. If diagnostic code 83 is always on, this means voltage is not going to the ECU on the light green and black wire when both brakes are not applied as it's supposed to. If the brake switch, lever and pedal adjustment, and free movement are good, the first step would be to check the brake light fuse, which is labeled stop lamp on the bike. If the brake light fuse is okay, we'll need to determine why voltage is not going to the ECU on the light green and black wire. It could be an open somewhere in the light green and black wire. It could also be the brake switch relay is not sending voltage out on the light green and black wire to the brake light relay, or a problem with the front or rear brake light switches or wiring from the brake light fuse to each brake switch. A lot of these checks can be done at the brake light relay and brake switch relay, which are both behind the left side cover under the tool tray. The wires from both brake switches can also be checked here. With the main switch on, you should get battery voltage at the connector to the brake switch relay on the green-white to ground, which is from the rear brake switch, and also on the green-yellow wire to ground, which is from the front brake switch. If there's no voltage, test the wires from the relay to each brake switch assembly, test the switches themselves, and the wiring from both brake switches back to the brake light fuse. Next, the black wire for the relay should have less than 1 ohm to ground, and the light green and black wire should have less than 1 ohm to the brake light relay connector. The light green and black wire should also have less than 1 ohm from the brake switch relay connector to pin 31 at the 34-pin ECU multi-connector. Since this is a parallel connection, the brake lights might function properly, but diagnostic code 83 would always display on. This would indicate that just the wire from the brake light relay connector to the ECU is open. If Diagnostic Code 83 display is correct, next, test the brake light relay and wiring. With the main switch on, there should be battery voltage on the brown wire to ground and the light green and black wire to ground at the brake light relay connector. And the black wire should have less than 1 ohm resistance to ground. Next, jump battery voltage to the light green and black wire. The brake light should go off. If not, the primary circuit in the brake light relay has failed, or the secondary side of the relay is stuck in the closed position. If the complaint was no brake lights, check the horn. No brake lights and no horn would indicate a failed signaling fuse. Remove the upper cowling panels and check the fuses. If the horn does work though, we know the signaling fuse is good, so removing all those cowling panels may not be necessary. Again, we can use Diagnostic Code 83 for this complaint. It should display off when the brake lever and brake pedal are not activated, and change to on when either brake is applied. If the readings on Diagnostic Code 83 stay off when either the brake lever or brake pedal are applied, this indicates the circuit is always getting voltage and never getting opened by either one of the brake switches or the brake switch relay. Diagnostic Code 83 always off is possible, but not very likely, since both front and rear brake circuits would have to have a mechanical issue with the brake switches not moving freely, or an adjustment or free movement problem with both the brake lever and brake pedal. For a no brake light complaint, if Diagnostic Code 83 displays correctly, off, then change to on when either brake is applied, the brake light relay, also behind the left side cover, is the logical place to start troubleshooting. Check the light green and black wire into the brake light relay. It should have battery voltage when the main switch is on and neither brake is applied, and go away when either brake is applied. The black wire for the brake light relay should have less than 1 ohm resistance to ground. Next, back probe the brown wire at the brake light relay. You should have battery voltage with the main switch on. If the battery voltage is okay on the brown wire, jump the brown wire to the yellow wire and see if the brake lights come on. If the brake lights work with the jumper wire, and you had battery voltage on the light green and black wire into the brake light relay when the main switch is on, and neither brake is applied, and the black wire is good to ground, then the brake light relay has failed and should be replaced. Now, relay failures are less common than wiring or connection problems, so be sure you make good test connections and double check your work. One of these steps will reveal the cause of the problem.